It would be kids from my high school who I hadn't spoken to in years, teachers from college, family, friends, but somehow or other it was just a thrill, and it was a tapo divyam, it was a divine austerity, and I could say that it was maybe one of the most exciting times of my life. So don't underestimate the power of trying, like we saw in that presentation yesterday. Our part is to check the box next to our names. The rest is in Krishna's hands. And there's photographic evidence from that time that quite a few of those random people from high school or from wherever wound up buying books and got them in the mail. So don't be afraid to try. You'll be pleasantly surprised at the results. Another fun way of getting Bhagavatams out there that we've been able to implement is in getting people to sponsor them for others, especially those who are kind of on the fringe. I find that a lot with a lot of Westerners that are connected to Krishna consciousness in some kind of loose way, coming to kirtan, etc. They may be young, they may not actually have the means to purchase a set themselves, but they're favorable enough to the point where they would very graciously accept one into their home. There's one such person named Matthew, who we met on book distribution in Washington Square Park. And he was kind of an artist type. He actually used to set up his own little station in Washington Square Park, and he would do some pictures there. But somehow or other he came to the table one day and he became inspired about the Bhagavad Gita. And we began talking, and he would come to kirtan, and it became apparent that he was looking to take the next step. So this is right around the time of Bhadra Purnima, and we're able to get a very gracious grihasta to sponsor a set for him. And it went into his home, and to this day, he says it's his focal point in life, to the point where he still comes out on Prasadam distribution, our Prasadam distribution program, 3 days a week. And he credits that inspiration to the Bhagavatam. I have a picture somewhere on my phone. Maybe I could pull it up.
Hello, hello.
He sent me a picture recently when we were trying to show these different ways to distribute Bhagavatams of himself in front of the same set from a few years ago. And he looks as ecstatic as ever. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of examples of that. And you'll see that if you can do that, if you can put the Bhagavatam in someone's home who maybe is on the fringe, it acts as a sort of anchor that keeps them connected to the devotees. So no matter if they go up or down in their immediate spiritual lives, because they have that focal point there, it keeps them connected and inspired. So, thank you.
Bhalo, bhalo. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's bona fide. I didn't make it up. We read the Madhya Lila last year at Govardhan, and we found that when the devotees were pleased with something in the congregation, they would say this Bengali phrase, bhalo, bhalo, like, right? Like, very good, very good. So it's a nice variance. The clapping's okay too. I read it in the Krishna book. It happened in the assembly when the wrestlers were there. And Prabhupada mentions specifically how there was clapping. Because some people say clapping's bogus. But I found it in the Krishna book. But it's nice to have alternative ways. Okay, go ahead.
Just to add, if you're shy to even call someone on your contact list, I have another idea. This came up accidentally. I don't know how. I think it is Lord Chaitanya's arrangement. But Vaisheshika Prabhu asked me to make a video of experience with my sister. And I made a video and I sent it for editing. And the version came back and the comment says, "Is it okay, Mataji," on that WhatsApp text. And I was actually replying to her saying, yeah, it's okay. And somehow accidentally, when I was clicking that video, it ended up on my WhatsApp status. I don't know how. On my WhatsApp status. And that was in the evening, I didn't notice. And next day morning, I saw like a bunch of messages on my WhatsApp saying that some devotee said, did you mean to post this? Because it said, is this video okay? Some devotees were asking. And then I saw 4 or 5 of my friends who are on my contact list, very old contact. I've never contacted them in last 15, 16 years. And they sent a message saying that, I really liked your video. And tell me, how can I help? And I called them. And one person said that, I do Reiki healing now. I'm spiritual. So I want to help with this cause. So she asked me, how can I participate? And I gave her the information. I gave her a form. So she said she will share with her group where she will also try to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam sets. And my old colleague also from 10 years ago, she also sent a message. I really like the work that you're doing. I also want to help. So though it was accidental, I think it's a good idea if we want to put this on a video. Personal message is always good. And even if you're shy to call someone, then you can make a video of something, this message that I'm doing this. If you'd like to participate or help, please let me know. And you put it on your WhatsApp status, or I'm sure there is Instagram, Facebook also, but I don't use that so much, so I don't know. But there are other ways, I'm sure. So if you put a message out, you don't know how many people will call you or send you a message. Later I took down immediately because that was not a full video, so, but this is also an idea I thought to share.
Hello, hello. We discovered during one of the early, something was going on. One of the early Bhadra's Purnima. What's the name of the Swami in India? Sri Purushottam's guru. Bhakti Raghava Maharaj was talking about how he was going to contribute to the Bhadra Purnima, and that he goes to all the villages, and there are tens of thousands of villages. Prabhupada commented once about how that's the mainstay of India. Actually, that's where India really lives. Cities sprang up during industrialization, and it's a different kind of culture. And there's another phenomenon that's been taking place by the power of time, that many of those villages which were solidly situated in Bhagavata culture then were influenced by various other ideologies which may not be as productive, just being kind. And Bhakti Raghava Maharaj found that by going there personally and talking to them, preaching to them, it would encourage them. But what he said was the most effective was placing a full set of Bhagavatams in what each one of those villages has, and I forget the technical name for it, but it's kind of a community center. Panchaya. And we started getting feedback when the Bhagavatam set would go in there, then people would congregate there just to hear from the Bhagavatam. There was one village where one of the senior Vaishnavis there sort of became the guru for the whole group because she was so enthusiastic about the Bhagavatam. She started reading it and everyone would come, and you could see how everyone was transformed by the presence of the Bhagavatam in the Panchaya. And we made a video about this, not a pointedly political video, but tacitly and indirectly, same thing, indicating that if you want to stop the erosion of the Bhagavat culture across India that's happening even as we're making this video, then you can sponsor a set for a particular village. And it really hit a nerve. And we branded that activity as Gram Vidyadham. That's been very successful, and it took some work to create a financial channel that was legal to transfer funds and to make sure the placements were happening on schedule and so forth. So that's been one of the ways in which, if you can be connected to that distributes books, but it also is an idea that you can employ in other areas as well. If you think of specific niches that could be filled, and you can point that out to those who would like to help book distribution, and then there's a specific target. That's the most effective. Because we find that if it's a general fund that people are giving to, then they're not as interested as if they know where it's going. And as an example, there are some nonprofit organizations that feed kids. And I remember seeing them even when I was young, that they would show a specific kid and say, would you like to sponsor such and such because he's hungry? And then people, no, they didn't do that, they had to call. And they would sponsor a kid for ostensibly 5 cents a day or something like that, And so the more specific you can make it, lots of people like to help. And what we found is lots of people like to distribute books, but they don't immediately volunteer to go out and distribute books. But they would like to know that they're specifically going to a place and they would like to put their money into it. And that opens up a whole other world of inviting people to give their hard-earned money to help sponsor books, and which then flows into an ideas about how to best organize fundraising drives to collect money from the community so that you can use it for book distribution. And we've found that if you engineer them, that is the fundraising drives, carefully, and you hold them at the right time, then lots of people volunteer. Like the other day, it was spontaneous, but over in Brampton, we had a little mini session like that, where lots of people who were in the temple room, wasn't it? Were you there? And they participated. 75 sets of Bhagavatams. It was just about a 15-minute span. And that wasn't even necessarily planned for very long. So there's a lot we get out of it. A few just ideas, and I'm not going into a lot of the details, but one thing is, when we have these, we put up on the screen so that people can see who's donating. And as they donate, in real time, you see the spreadsheet filling in, and you see the aggregated numbers at the bottom as it's adding up. And then there's a process which is, it should be illegal, but nobody's called us on it yet, which is the countdown. And for some reason, it creates a kind of special compression, like a pressure cooker. And people don't want the countdown to end, even if they're hungry and they want to go to prasadam. They keep, like, somebody will call in or raise their hand. It's like at the last second. And so those help us a lot. And I've seen a lot of bad fundraisers that the air goes out, or it's half-hearted, or it's not as well organized as it could have been. And those can be made more efficient in the long run. Do you have more you want to say? Go ahead. Huh? Okay, we have a video to show. Would anybody like to stand up? Is anybody tired from the weekend's activities? Just stand up for a minute and say, Gauranga.
Gauranga.
2, 3.
Gauranga.
1, 2, 3.
Gauranga.
Okay. All better.
Just wanted like to give a background about this video. So many devotees sponsor for Gram Vidyadan. So we have selected very, very different areas in India where these books go to. There's a team of brahmacharis who are going from village to village to village and covering each and every village. And they have a list of the names of the people who got it and which village. And they share that there are 120,000 more villages to cover. So there is a lot of scope. But this is just one example of, because a lot of sets are distributed but not everything is captured in video. But we specifically requested if some of them can be captured on the video. So this is about one family receiving in a village.
हरे कृष्णा। तो आज इस्कॉन मंदिर की तरफ से हम लोग गांव में श्रीमद् भागवतम वितरण करने जा रहे हैं गांव के भक्तों के यहाँ जो कि आर्थिक रूप से कमजोर हैं। ये इस भागवतम सेट को स्पॉन्सर किया है श्रीमान वैशेषिका प्रभु जी और यूएसए के भक्तों ने। तो हम बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देंगे सभी का। हरे कृष्ण।
पढ़ने का बहुत इच्छा था। आर्थिक स्थिति के कारण नहीं किताब खरीद पा रहे थे। आज किताब मिला। अध्याय महाराज प्रियव्रत का चरित्र। राजा परीक्षित ने श्री सुखदेव गोस्वामी से पूछा, हे मुनिवर, परम आत्मदर्शी भागवत भक्त राजा प्रियव्रत ने ऐसे ग्रस्त जीवन में रहना क्यों पसंद किया जो कर्म बंधन, सकाम कर्म का मूल कारण तथा मानव जीवन के उद्देश्य को पराजित करने वाला है। आप
Hello, hello, hello. ভালো আছে, খুব ভালো।
Hare Krishna. We can take, with your permission, some questions or reflections if devotees have from yesterday. In the morning, before we went out yesterday, there were some questions that we couldn't take. So if you have questions from then or after the Sankirtan yesterday, please share, or any reflections. Who would like to begin? Yes, Akshina. Akshina.
Krishna, this is my second question that I wasn't able to ask yesterday. I had so when we're out on books, this is not particularly book distribution, but it's like related to like behavior, like when you're doing book distribution.
Keep the mic closer to your mouth, please.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So when we encounter a person who's from a different religion, different practice, and they are the ones preaching, and like they encounter us and they will like start talking to us and saying, for example, like Jesus and all that stuff. How are we supposed to like conduct that conversation? Because we're book distributors, but they're also like preaching to us. So how do we conduct ourselves in that situation?
learned from His Grace Vaisheshwar Guru that the best way to deal with...
I don't think that's all.
I learned from His Grace... I think it's dead. One thing I learned there, okay, that one's alive, from His Grace Vaisheshwar Prabhu is that the best way to deal with a fanatic is to don't deal with them. In general, it's usually somewhat of a waste of time to try and sway them because they're already decided in their convictions. So the best you could do in that situation is generally just to leave them with a favorable impression and move on towards a riper fruit. Don't waste time trying to beat a dead horse.
And one of the ways is the universal principle we talked about yesterday and that devotees employed yesterday, which is to honor what the person's saying instead of resisting, because what you resist persists. And I'm not going to resist that sound either. I'm just going to let it flow through me. And very specifically, when I notice the pitch in their voice, just be curious about it. Don't let it affect you. That I honor them. Whatever they're saying, I honor. If they say, do you know that Lord Jesus Christ is the only way? I'll say, if we have more people like you in the world, it would be a better place to live. It's people like you of faith that are keeping this world afloat. Without you, we're sunk. And if you give those few lines immediately, then you'll find that the resistance breaks and the platform on which they were going to preach to you, where they have this intense desire to give you something that you don't want because they would like to break whatever you're doing and make sure that you take what they have. If you just accept it, and even more than they expected, they're left without a platform. It takes a little practice because the first reflex oftentimes is to resist it and to say, yeah, but you don't know that what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita and so forth. Better to get away, and that's a way you can practice getting away clean, because they oftentimes are left with a gap about what they were going to say next, and then you can move on. Okay, Akshina Mangala.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Yesterday we began book distribution with a lot of but after facing so many rejections, the team's mood was not very upbeat. Guru Maharaj, the moment you appeared at our book table, the entire atmosphere changed. Everyone's mood shifted from dullness to vibrancy. Then we began witnessing the magic. People started taking Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam and other books. So how can we remain enthusiastic even when we are not, even when we receive a stream of rejections?
I mean, the main difference is confidence. When you have confidence, then you can be more steady and not feel discouraged. What does confidence mean? Confidence means that you've had enough experience to know that if you just keep going, you're going to, even if you're the worst at presenting, you're going to run into somebody who is so sweet that even if you tell them to get out of there, they're going to still bug you and say, yeah, but I want to buy the book. Can you help me? And thank you. that confidence is apparent when you talk to people that you're assuming they're going to take. It only takes a slight diminishment of that confidence for people then to get away. Because sometimes you'll notice, I have confidence, for instance, when I'm stopping somebody. I don't force them to stop, but I've had enough experience to know that they have nothing better to do than to stop. They're really not going anywhere else that's that important, although they act like they are. Because a lot of people, like you can see at a stoplight, the light turns green and they got to go. It's like, why? It's going to turn green again in 2 more minutes. You might as well stay. But people are forced, and they sort of have that momentum. But I know that if I give them that extra opportunity and a couple of questions, it could change the whole thing. Or that if I extend myself and say, oh yeah, why don't you take it? Then they might take it. And all that comes from confidence. And I say that it takes just more exposure. Exposure to watching people who are making it happen. Because once you see it, then in your mind you'll start thinking, well, if they made it happen, I can make it happen. And then doing it yourself, more reps. If you go out occasionally, you can get a little rusty and then feel not as confident. So try to get on a regular schedule to go out, at least to stay fresh, and try to watch people who are doing it regularly and watch how confident they are. Same in any learning experience, like with the language. If you think that you can learn the language and you just keep trying even though you're making mistakes, then you pick it up. And if you hesitate, then you'd be like 99% of the people who say, yeah, I took 3 years of Spanish, but I can't speak a word. That kind of thing. So you got to just get in there and do it. Facing rejection. We talked about that yesterday too. You just got to keep going. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I just have a little experience to share, because Mataji and Prabhu talked about calling people for distributing Bhagavatam. I once worked at a job where we were selling credit cards on phone, and even though it was cold calling, people would still take it, because one thing I was realizing yesterday was that when people were approached randomly in person, they were feeling a little scared because we were unexpectedly breaking into their territory. Such a thing doesn't so much happen on the phone, and people are still in their own space, so they feel safer, so they're willing to listen more. It is a possibility. So and we're talking about calling people who already know us and they have some relationship with us. So it could be a very good way. So that was my takeaway from whatever was discussed.
Could you repeat the first part, just the sentence where you said, even though it was cold calling, they still took? I think that was a valuable statement.
Yes, Maharaj. Even though it was a cold calling, which is, we were calling people who were unknown to us, random numbers, and still they would take those credit cards, or at least were willing to hear us, and after they were convinced, they would buy them. And here we're most likely calling...
That's the good part. I wanted to hear that. Just that it's always possible, because souls are open to suggestion, and there's no one niche that it can't happen in when you're talking to souls. You just have to keep bringing it up. That's the point. That's what keeps you going in the confidence, is that you just know that if you keep going, it's going to happen. And don't worry about anything else. And you can add the extra point that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will help to stack the deck in your favor if you just keep going. But it's very helpful, because everyone's afraid, many people are afraid of cold calling because they think, oh, I'm interrupting somebody. It doesn't matter, because somebody's going to take. That's why I get hundreds of texts. I don't know how I got on people's text thing, telling me, you know, I'm eligible for a loan and all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking like, wow, they must be selling stuff, because they keep pounding me with it over and over again. Somebody's buying this stuff somewhere. And even the scam callers, you can obviously tell they're from Pakistan or some other country, you know, and they're going, why you not take this thing, you know? Whatever it is, it's obvious scam, but still people are taking it. We're not a scam, but if you just remember those guys, how are they making a living? You know, they just keep calling because they know there's always somebody out there that's going to take it. So you have to, you know, yeah, you have to be very persistent. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Oh, it's too loud? Oh, okay. First of all, just want to say thank you to all the organizers that organized yesterday. It was quite a monumental effort. And of course, for your participation, Guru Ma, and then Malini Mataji and Anupama Prabhuji as well. Thank you so much. Had an amazing experience on Team Jayanti, Dasi's team, and at St. Lawrence Market. It was a first-time destination for us, and a little bit challenging as well. So we had quite a bit of foot traffic, which was amazing. And one thing that I found really resonated was, as you always say, you need to distribute yourself. People are looking for a personal connection because that's what's lacking in everyone's life nowadays. So I found when we really developed that personal connection, then you can basically sell anything. It's just about making yourself available. And I found two people that I really resonated with. One was named Dylan, another one Teresa. And they were just going about their day-to-day. They were doing grocery shopping at the St. Lawrence Market, but they still stopped because they felt like I had something important to share. And I remembered Anupama's, Prabhuji's advice to just be an explosion of energy. So that was really helpful, of just, you know, being energetic, like you have something important to share. And you know, once you fill up your container, it overflows. And then people, they find that energy is contagious and they just want to learn more, even if it may or may not be something they're immediately interested in. So thank you so much for that advice. One question I had was with regards to just viewing people on the radar, and I know you mentioned to us last year, if somebody's like even a 5.1 out of 10, then you can approach them. So what I'm finding is that nowadays, it's really, really hard to even find those people that are 5.1 out of 10. It's like a lot of people have their headphones on, and they're on their phone, or they're just not even making eye contact, even though we're out there and we're trying to do our best to present ourselves in an appropriate manner. So my question is, how can we better present ourselves so that the first impression is not for someone to immediately walk away and not make eye contact, but to actually intrigue someone's interest and grab someone's interest?
Well, didn't you mention that you had these favorable interactions with people because you had approached with high energy?
Yes, but those were people that I felt were already 5.1 out of 10.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to ask is, how do we get more people that are 5.1 or above out of 10 to be interested? Because I feel like majority were not.
Some of it, a lot of it comes from experience, because you may notice more than, this is a telltale sign, the smile. I've just noticed that you can tell if people go, I don't know what it means exactly, but it's not a 5.1. But there are other signs as well. The way people look at you, or if they even do look at you, sometimes you can just tell by their glance that they're kind of innocent, or the way, the speed they're moving is also a telltale sign. If somebody's really moving fast, it's kind of an assault to try to stop them, because they have to put on their brakes really fast. And with headphones, there's more of them nowadays. But recently I had a breakthrough with earbuds, because if you just talk at them, they'll just pretend like they're not there because they have another place to put their attention. But what I do is I point to the earbud, I go like this, I bring attention to it, and I say, what are you listening to? What are you listening to? And that's the question I ask them. And a lot of times, I would say 6 out of 10 people stop, and they'll take their headphone, I'm listening to such and such. And wow, fantastic, I love that, you know? And that's the opening, and that's how to get them. So it's just one example, but there's lots of little tics people have. And if you can find your way in to those things. Prabhupada told us in Vrindavan in 1975, he said, if you're sincere and you try, and he went like this, he said, then the master within your heart will show you how to do it. And he said, every devotee has some genius how to do this, and if you just try, then Krishna will reveal it to you. So I think the main question was how to show up so that they'll be interested in you, and then you answered it, because you said about the overflow. Like before I got out of the car, I was just chanting. I didn't want to talk, I just want to chant. And if you have that, I'll tell you a story. One of the biggest book distributors ever was Manasutta Prabhu. He passed, but he was the king of O'Hare Airport for at least a couple of years. And his japa was the best on the planet. And people would come from, he was huge on the newsletter. He didn't have an unusually subtle approach, or it wasn't something fancy schmancy. It was just straightforward approach. And when people would come there, they'd want to find, where's Manasutta? I want to talk to him. What's your secret to your distribution? He'd always give a one-word answer, japa. And you'd see him in the corner of the temple room just totally into his japa, chanting hard. And all the way out to the airport, he was just focused. And when you have that and you get on the street, it's a mismatch. Because little Jiva's dum-dee-dum-dee-dum, you know, walking along like, I think I'll break the 4 regular principles today. And then they see this guy with you know, this force field around his head, you know, light coming out from every direction because he's chanting japa. And then they don't know what hit him. So it's a spiritual thing. And that's how you show up better. And you said it, you know, when you fill up, then there's overflow. So fill up. And if you're thinking like that, I'm getting ready to go out. Why am I doing this? I'm going to chant great rounds. I'm going to also do my Chad Plus. I'm going to listen in class. Whatever you're doing, be tight. And if you're on a tight program and then you go out, there's a big difference. First law of book distribution, your sadhana must be strong. One, two, three, four.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So I had sort of an experience and also a question to share from yesterday. Again, I was also at St. Lawrence Market. And it's with the first Bhagavatam set that we went yesterday under your guidance. There was this person who stopped by. His name is Clavier. He's I think originally from Brazil, and so I showed him the Bhagavatam, explained it to him, but he said it's too big for me, and it went out of my mind that we also had e-sets, but and he said I'm moving back to Brazil soon, so can I get something small? So I just showed him a few books, and he took the 4 questions, and I realized you were standing right at the back, so I took him to get it signed by you, and you signed it for him. And you asked him, oh, do you have a Bhagavatam set? And then you took him to the table, and eventually he took a Bhagavatam set. So it's just, so it's amazing, like how Bhagavatam distribution is like a group effort most of the time, right? Sometimes, you know, it may not click in the first go, but you know, there are always people who may click it, and it was amazing to connect him with you. So that was a beautiful experience, and he was a very responsive personality. My question was, again, very similar to the question asked by Shiklakund Prabhu, and was that how can, especially when you have people, you know, walking by, they don't look at you, you know, and I asked Jayanti, is this attitude or is it that language is an issue here? You know, why are they not looking at you? I mean, at least smile. So how do you, is there like a one-liner you can keep on telling yourself to encourage at that point of time, especially feel the lowest in book distribution?
There is a line. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. When you're out on the street, there's a lot of energy coming at you. You don't know how much there is. And you can just get covered by it easily. So you have to keep the Maha Mantra going. And when we go door to door, always at the door, knock, knock, who knows who's going to open? That's a moment of truth. So I just, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And on the street, I try to keep the mantra going constantly and just take shelter of the name. Don't get into calculating. That's when you get mental. You calculate, that person will take, that person won't take. And then you go to somebody who will take and they go, get out of here. And they go, see, it must be me, you know. I'm a bad person. Just take shelter of Krishna and be an instrument. And another practice that I like is just approach everybody. Even the people your mind's going, they'll never take. And I just go, you're lying. You don't know. I'm going to approach every single person just to show you you don't know what you're talking about. And that's a sadhana. That's why I say Bhakti is a high sadhana, because one of the main messages Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita is to be equipoised. Stay on the same level no matter what happens. And if you want, like, the high end, you know, of the game cycle, to practice it, it's out on, what's that, where were we? Young? St. Lawrence. That's a good place to play this equanimity game. We should make a game like that. How does that equipoise? People don't acknowledge you, or, you know, whatever happens, happens. So I think that's the main line, is just keep the Maha Mantra going. You practice it next time. Notice how many times you stop, and then keep doing it. And you'll notice that as soon as you do the Maha Mantra and you keep it going, that's when everything becomes possible.
Just like there's a runner's high for people who really like to run and, you know, running long distances, there's also a kind of book distribution high that you could get if you just get in this mode of just not stopping, turning the mind off and just going for it from person to person to person to person, and not thinking who's going to take. And you'll find you find yourself in this flow eventually, where you're no longer discouraged by whether or not someone stops or doesn't stop, because you just have this feeling that it's going to happen. And then it does happen. Somebody does take, they're really interested, they're into spirituality, and it works out. It's also nice, I don't know if anyone's ever seen Hook here, old Peter Pan movie with Robin Williams. Some people maybe. But the whole thing is he forgets how to fly. And the way in which he remembers how to fly again is, well, the way in which he flies is by thinking a happy thought. And so for him it was this teddy bear that he used to use when he was a kid. But for us as book distributors, learning how to fly, we can also have a sort of happy place that we could channel. For example, we have beautiful Radha Kirachur Gopinath here. And I was thinking when I got here, I didn't know that these were the deities here, but my wife and I, we really like the story of Madhavendra Puri, and especially the fact that this incredible exchange happened between him and Kirachur Gopinath, and how they set aside this clay pot, and Madhavendra Puri kind of took the pot without anyone else, you know, he didn't want to alert anyone that it was saved for him. And then he left in the night, and then he would be in a secluded place, he would just take a grain every so often. And then when rice was done, then he would eat a piece of the pot. Just such a sweet little thing that you could keep in your heart, and you could bring it out there on book distribution. There's a beautiful verse in the Upadeshamrita, Tanama Rupa Charitari Sakirtananu. If we're absorbed in hearing the holy names and in hearing these stories of these great personalities, we actually live in Vrindavan. We live in Braj. And like Vaisheshika Prabhu was saying, if that's the place that we are residing, then people won't stand a chance out there, at least their minds, material nature. It'll be a big mismatch, and you'll put up a lopsided number against it.
Can you answer the same question? Can you speak to that also?
I think whatever both of them said is true. But I wanted to share something from yesterday, that we were speaking to a Gujarati gentleman. He and I think his mom was there outside, and they were getting into the car. We tried to explain, and he said his wife was very spiritual, he will take, she was there too, he will take, and in the end somehow he said, I have to talk to my wife about it. And he said, why don't you give her a call right now? And then he called and he said, let me go inside and call. He took the phone inside. I don't know if he called or not. He came back and said, my wife doesn't want it. So we were just thinking, oh, okay, his wife doesn't want it. So by the time when he went inside, there was, all of a sudden another person showed up. This is Samuel from Uganda. Out of nowhere, when we were feeling rejected on one side, Krishna just showed another opportunity. Just when we turned, he was just present right in front of our eyes. So we spent talking to him, and quickly, I mean, we didn't have to actually talk a lot about Srimad Bhagavatam also. And we said, these are spiritual encyclopedia. So he himself asked, can you show me those books, what they are? And we took him to the table. We had a broken set. We didn't even have all the full set with us. So we asked all the devotees, please bring back your display copy so we can make a full set and show it to him. So all the devotees brought the full sets of Bhagavatam. And I don't mind paying. He was a social worker. And he works at a homeless shelter helping people. He said, I don't mind paying as long as it is in installments. And he gave his credit card to put it on the installment plan. And then we were so amazed that you just have to keep trying. You know, even if you lose one person, the other person is right next to you. So as the thrill, as Prabhu was talking about, so just want to share.
I like the whole concept of getting in, of getting into a flow state. It's really important. And another aspect I've found that helps to get in flow state is keep that mantra, leave everyone with a good impression. Because if that's my focus, no matter whether they sneer at me or apparently are not interested for one reason or other, if I extend myself in whatever way I can, even by pulling back quicker than I normally would, whatever, just giving them more space, and that's my objective, is to leave everyone with a good impression, then it helps develop that flow state, because you feel happy that you're not creating resistance and you're not smashing against that energy where people are trying to reject you. Even it's passive aggressive in a way, like I'm not even going to acknowledge you. That's kind of passive aggressive at its best or worst. And if you don't fall for it and you stay blissful, then it's like you're a super character out there, like some kind of superhero character, because you're like, look at him go, he's impervious, nobody can stop him, you know. That guy spit on him and he keeps going. You know, how does he do it? How does he do it? And that makes it like interactive. You're actually specifically trying to do that, leave him with a good impression. Yeah. Flow state's really good concept. Who was next? Did we have an order, or we started? Because you were a while ago, right? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I mean, why don't you keep track of who it is, because we need someone with an IQ to do that. Okay.
Hare Krishna. I have two questions. So one is that, like yesterday at Kensington, I kind of noticed that some people listening the Mahamantra, they asked that, oh, it's Hare Krishna. And then when I said yes, they seemed to have a bad impression, and they just, like, they made a very bad face and then they left. So what should we do in that situation? Like, should we try to stop them and try to make a good impression of us, or just let them go? And second thing is that, so some people, we gave our full presentation to them, and then when we asked for donation, they were just not ready to give, like just more than like $2-3, where the book we were giving them was like a good book. And literally we could see that they're loaded top to bottom, but they were just not ready to give anything. So it was interesting to me. So if you could have any comments on that.
It's helpful to remember how potent the holy name is. We have Jayanama Deha Muni Vrindagehe Janaranjanaya Panamakshara Krite Tamanarara Pimanagudiritam Nikilokrata Papatalimba Lumpasi. In that verse, Rupa Goswami says, even if somebody derides the holy name or the chanters, still mountains of sins get destroyed. There are other verses just like that, which I won't belabor the point with different verses, but there are multiple verses like that. So keep that context in mind. You can't boil the ocean. You can't fix somebody's disposition on the street. They either have it or they don't. And even if they don't, and they hear the holy name, and they deride the very idea, or they deride you for chanting, or they seem disgusted with it, that's an emotion toward the holy name, which means it's like a tar baby. I mean, you can't get away. Sorry. We can be happy for them. And we're not in a PR contest, although we do want to present in such a way that people will be attracted and appreciate. But some people won't, but still they interact with the holy name. And the second question, just remind me, was about, in not giving enough donation. It's very helpful to carefully structure your book distribution system so that there's no pressure on the distributors. They have much more discretion. We had a lot of pressure on us in the 70s because Prabhupada said everyone has to give, got to get at least $5 a book. At least that was our impression of what he said. And that caused a lot of problems because of our misinterpretation of how to execute that, I should say. Because we were so rigid about it that, if someone had a book, they gave 4, it was like, oh my God, take it back, give another book. There was disappointment on the side, or, So my suggestion on the positive side is to find out how the cash flow and the income of the overall project for book distribution is ample enough so that every distributor on the street can make a choice. It has discretion. My rule is, if they're interested in it, they paid attention. Means they're sincere about it, they actually want the book. The people I don't want to have the book are the ones who are not interested in it, and they really don't want it anyway. And there are ways to get the book back without being awkward. For instance, if somebody gives and then they're obviously not into it and they gave such a lackluster effort to give, and you saw they had a huge wallet and they searched down to the corner to find not just the penny but the one that has gum on it, and that was the one they gave, you can always say to them, okay, would you rather I give the book to somebody else? That's the way I say it. Would you rather I give it to somebody else? It gives them, and they say, no, you gave it to me, I want to keep it. Fine, let it go. Better to let books go and not create this tension that will stick with you for the rest of the day and also with them. And so look at the books, calculate how much there is, and then let the distributors distribute. And what happens is when you're concentrating on getting the books out as much as possible, the main problem is hiring enough CPAs to count all the money. Because the more you distribute, the more the contents increase. That's spiritual mathematics. And that's the main problems, like what to do with all the money. You got to figure it out.
I think in Toronto we have a good system in place, like we can give books out. I think what I understand from what you shared, Marge, is that, like, my question was from a point of that if the person is paying for other things but he is not ready to pay for spiritual books, but you said that if he paid attention to hearing, then we should just still give it the book.
Yeah, people have an appreciating capacity. Some people be overwhelmingly excited about taking the book and giving donation, and it'll just flow out of them. Other people, they can't do it. There was this person I was asked to visit. He had semi-practicing devotional service for his life. And then near the end, when he was ill, he wanted to have a mentor or spiritual master, even get initiated before he passed away. So I spent in time with him, and he was weeks away from, or maybe 2 weeks, 1 week away from passing. And he said, I want to write a check for the temple. This was in Washington, D.C. You remember Loka? That guy that Lakshmi Van introduced me to? Anyway, he was writing the check from his deathbed, and he was a very wealthy man. And he looked at me and he said, this is very hard. He said, even though I know I'm going to die, he said, even though I have money, and even though I know I'm giving this to the temple, it's very hard to write this check, and it's my fault, he said, because I've been holding on my whole life. And when you meet living entities, it's not just so easy for them to give it up. And that's why it's such a big thing. It's really, we're trying to give them an opportunity. The donation is their opportunity to start the flow of giving. And so if you accept it in that mood when they give it, I wrote this chapter called The Penny Principle. If you take their penny and you say, this is fantastic, thank you, you accept it. And Prabhupada gives a story. He said there was this brahmachari going begging, and he went to a neighborhood and door to door, and there was this one couple, there was a couple, and they were fighting and angry. So when he knocked on the door, the man of the house opened the door, and he was already in cantankerous mood. And the brahmachari asked for a donation for the temple. And the wife in the back said, who is it? And he said, some brahmachari's begging. He said, give him some ashes and tell him to get out of here. So the husband, in the same foul mood, went to their stove, picked out some ashes, and just sort of threw it into the little collection bowl that the brahmachari had. So the brahmachari accepted it graciously, took it back to the temple, collected every little part of it, and gave it to the pujari. Ashes are good for polishing. And said, use this exclusively for the deity paraphernalia. And then, Prabhupada said, he went back in the same neighborhood about 6 months later. He didn't remember which house was which, but when the householders saw him coming down the street, they ran out and offered Dandavata obeisances because it had cleansed their heart. And Prabhupada then said, in the finale of the story, he said, from one pinch of ashes, back home, back to Godhead. And just to add on to that, we have this thing, it's a tradition now, collecting cigarette lighters. Because it started with me, and it started on the street in San Francisco, where anything can happen, and especially back in the old days for Black Friday. There's a crazy shopping day. And this hippie couple came down the street when I was talking to people, distributing books, and I showed them the book, and they go, cool, man, and they sit down right on the street, like in the middle of the crowd. I'm like, these guys are bona fide hippies. And they start going through the book and stuff like that, totally into it, totally. And then for the donation part, you know, scrounging around their pockets, and I go, this is all I have, man, you know, my lighter, and I go, I'll take it. They're surprised, but I took it. And about an hour later, I was distributing books, and some other guy came up to me, you know that guy you met a little while ago? He wants his cigarette lighter back. I said, I'm sorry, they came by, I gave it to the church. It's gone. And I took that home, and I washed it very carefully. And I still have it, actually. I still have all the ones I take off of these people. And I use it every day to light the incense and the lamp for my deities. And it's such a feeling, because there it is from the street, from this person who lost their lighter, which is a big thing to them. And I'm lighting and I'm offering it to Gaudi Tai. And so we should take it in that spirit. Like, if you see one tiny little thing you can extract, it's not the amount, it's just the principle of it, how we're there to accept on behalf of Krishna. That's our job. We're supposed to take it and then transport it and put it in the right place. And then everything good will happen. So think like that and you'll be okay. There's more.
I could say also, there are certain things you could say or not say to help kind of set the expectation as to what they think that they should give. If you start off very low and think, oh, just give a penny, just give $1 before they even indicate, what their capabilities are, and you could be selling yourself short. Whereas if you go into the interaction thinking this person could give $1,000, then you'll be surprised. You'll probably get a little bit closer to that than just a penny. For example, there's this one lady yesterday where we were at Kensington, and I could tell she was in a rush. We were kind of stationed outside of the restaurant there, so she was on her way in. And I started talking to her. She was of Indian descent, so I started presenting to her about how this is the Bhagavatam, and she said, I can't take. She was very adamant about it. So I said, can I make a humble request, Mataji? Could you please sponsor one set to go into somebody else's home? And she immediately said, okay, how much is it? And I said, well, how much do you think it is? And she said, I don't know. I could tell she was kind of ready to go. But she pulls out her wallet. She says, I'll give you everything I have in my wallet. And she gave $140, something like that. So leave some room for people to give big donations like that. You'll be surprised. Some people will surprise you. But at the same time, don't feel discouraged if there's less, because even a penny is eternally valuable.
We can stand up to greet the deities and stand up, then bow, and then we'll come back. I just want to, maybe I said this in the last couple of days, but it still tickles me, because taking the kids out from the Gurukul in London, I was trying to lead and help them out, and then I realized they were better off on their own. So I was kind of just pushing them forward and standing back. And after we distributed for the day and we came back and we were having a sharing session like this, one of the kids, a real bright kid, he said, I learned one thing: don't ask for a small donation. I said, bravo. On that same, anything? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So I want to appreciate a couple of points. One is the study groups, where it's a good avenue. So Sitala and I organize a Bhagavatam study group, but I said you can't be part of it unless you buy a set. So it becomes an impetus, because they want to learn about Bhagavatam and join a class, but they don't want to get a set, so I said you have to get a set. So it's a very easy way to do book distribution, to cultivate. And second, about the Gram Vidya Dan, Bhakti Raghava Swami. So even though he does a lot of book distribution in India, he's originally from Canada, from Ontario. So that's a point I want to mention. So one suggestion I have is on the lot 2 of book distribution, which is to get books. Canada's, area-wise, is a very large country, larger than the US, and population of California. So sometimes shipping of books have been a challenge for many of our smaller temples. So we have 28 temples in Canada that are participating in the Bhadra campaign, which is a record. Out of this 28 temples, only 14 remit to the BBT. So some temples collect a whole bunch of shipments for other temples. But a suggestion would be, Vaisheshika Prabhu, since you're a BBT trustee, is for a small temple to get them started with the BBT, because logistically to come over the border, there's been a huge markup over the years. And within America, it's so cheap, but then when it comes over here, it's very expensive. Is just to get them started, they have to order like 1 pallet of books, which they don't have the financial means. But if you're a registered ISKCON temple ordering for the first time, to offer some sort of a one-time discount so you kind of get started from the BBT. That's one suggestion, and the other suggestion is for temples that order in volumes, because the BBT has been getting more and more remittances, to get some sort of a volume sort of a discount on that, because that will help the books go out and our scores to be much higher, because we're seeing that even though $350 is the price here, in certain temples it's almost $400. So it becomes very cost prohibitive, and there's not a lot of shipments from California to say Saskatchewan or Nova Scotia that allows for that lower cost.
Shamahini, where have you heard that before and when? Yesterday, and who did you hear it from? Yeah, I was saying the exact same thing right after our, I said 350 is too much to present to people. Well, I didn't mean to put that on your ears, but it's actually too much. But I think it could be better, and I felt like if we look into the price structuring and find various ways to get volume discount or subsidies and things like that, it'd be nice to edge that down a little bit. So I agree. And I've taken your points to heart.
Yeah, especially if a small temple orders for the first time, they could have like a bigger discount, and the temples that already order, give them an incentive that if you do 20% more next year, it gives them an impetus to grow too.
Sharing from anything that you saw, felt, heard yesterday? Yes.
So, yesterday we went to the first location. And there we tried to distribute Bhagavatam sets to other
Where
people.
were you?
So, we were in front of Sai Baba temple.
Oh, Sai Baba, okay.
Yeah. And so we approached a few people, and then there was a couple I approached, and then I presented them the whole thing, and then they were pretty interested, but the main thing was they were like, okay, we are going back to India soon, so we cannot keep it here. I tried them giving a e-set or an e-book, but they were like, only one of us is working, and then we have to go back, expenses and everything. And then I tried to ask for some donations, and then they were like, can we do anything? I was like, yes, anything, just keep it under $1 million, right? And then they were like, okay, we can do 5. And then I was like, can you do 10? Because someone else just paid $340, and then $10 was missing. So they did 5, and then I did it the same thing with 2 other people. So that's how I got $10 donations from 3 people. Even though they didn't get a set at the end, still I got some donations, and then I was like, okay, if we at least do this, if I approach like a few people, 30 people, then I can do 1 set, right? Even if they don't take. And then the one more thing was, so there was a gentleman. So when I approached him, so he was having some tilak, and then I approached him with a Hare Krishna. So he replied me with a Radhe Radhe. So I did it Radhe Radhe. I was like, okay, however it is, like Bhagavatam should be distributed. But then, and he was like, so as you said, Maharaj, that we should not object them. So he was like, I already have Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And then I was like, then how many books you have? That does he know the difference? So he said, it's a lot of books, like more than 24. So I was like, okay, there might be some volume or something not from ISKCON or something else. And then he was like, then I was like, then you can donate it. If you know everything, you have everything, you can just sponsor a set to someone else. Saying that line, that a respectable person should have a Bhagavatam at their place. But then he came with a point that this is like my lineage gave me my grandfather, and this is like very sacred, I should not give it to someone else, you guys should not do this. So at that time, I was like, now how can I get back? Because now I know that he's not going to do anything, not even a donation. So at that time, how can I leave a good impression when he says this, that this is a sacred thing, you should not distribute it like that? Or like, because then if I would have said to him that no, then it's like that not a good impression. So yeah, if you can share anything.
Do you want to start?
So if I understand correctly, you were saying that he already has some lineage. So we encounter a lot of people who say that they already have some Bhagavatam set, and we definitely appreciate it because not many people have Bhagavatams, even from other lineage, which means that they're coming from a very respectable and spiritual family. So we appreciate that. And usually those sets, whatever they have, either it's in Sanskrit or some language which probably is, nowadays they don't understand. I give example of how my grandmother, she had a Bhagavatam always, and it was in Sanskrit. That was from her grandmother. Her grandmother, they all used to know how to read Sanskrit, but my grandmother did not know how to read Sanskrit. So every day she used to worship the book, but nobody read the Bhagavatam because it was in Sanskrit language. So one positive thing that we highlight is that this is translated from Sanskrit to English, which very few of them have it. That is one point we can mention, if they're open to it. But if they're not open to it, I just appreciate them. At least they have a set in their house. And another thing is, the unique thing about Prabhupada's translation, it has pictures also. I haven't seen pictures in any other translation so far. The pictures actually are windows to spiritual world, and when we see the pictures, it's easy to relate to the story. And a lot of things which we cannot imagine even, but when you see the pictures, you can get an idea. So a lot of people appreciate that as well. So here are a few things that I should say.
And in your question, you were saying, how can you get out of it once you've gone that far? And how could you appreciate them? I just try to find one thing to honor in them. For instance, if the person says something about you shouldn't be doing this, then finding something, their enthusiasm, just say, I'm glad. It's a rare person like you who has so much respect for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I really appreciate that. And I mean, it's just amazing what happens when you take just one little thing and appreciate them. We were down in, where were we in South India? Oh, in Mysore. We were in Mysore, and in the morning I was walking out to this field so I could watch the sunrise and do Gayatri. So I like to see the sunrise while I'm doing Gayatri. So in the middle of a field, probably people play massive games of soccer there or something like that. But there's not a soul there, and there was about 6 of us. And we were standing there, and from the distance we saw this guy coming along on a scooter, tooling along, and he's coming right for us. And he stops, and he looks at us, and he goes, "Shiva is number 1. Krishna is number 2. Where'd this guy come from? Out of nowhere. And we didn't react to it and get into a big thing. But then I just handed him a book, and he gave a donation, and he took it. So if you don't overreact, yeah, it was far out. I mean, he just like, okay, here. And if you don't overreact and just sort of, like if you have a little kid and they're pulling on your leg and you go, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy, I'm going to burn the house down," you know, like, "Yes, dear." Very nice, dear. You know, it just kind of be more like that in some cases. Okay, we still have a few opportunities to share. Sharing means caring. Yes?
There's one point I wanted to add to Anuttama Prabhu's thing that you said you have now study groups where you read Srimad Bhagavatam. I think these study groups, I know there are so many in many areas, so many study groups for Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a very ripe and fertile place if you want to give them a challenge for them to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam. Not only that they come to the study group with the Bhagavatam, but some of them are there for some time. Just wanted to share that I have a small study group with my family members. And they're all elder to me, my aunts and things like that. So I just told them that this is a campaign coming, so I wanted to see if all of you can try to distribute at least one Srimad Bhagavatam. They're all new, they're just coming to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of my aunt took it very seriously, and everyone comes to her house. She has a Bhagavatam right in her shelf in India. Anyone comes to her house, she first shows, this is a full set of Bhagavatam. This is really nice to read. You know, she just keeps telling them. And one of my cousins, which I think I'm not in touch with her for the last 21 years. She came to her house and she showed it to the Bhagavatam to her, and then she said, oh really? I didn't know that you were reading all these kinds of books. Where did you get them from? And then she said, oh, I will tell her to send you a set. And then she called me and then asked me to send a set. I sent her a set and she joined the calls, our study group, the Bhagavatam Reading Club. And when she joined, she was asking, how much money should I pay for the Bhagavatam set that you sent? And my aunt said, no, it's not for you to pay. I will pay for you. And my other aunt said, no, I want to pay. You know, they all started fighting. Who can pay for the Bhagavatam set? And then we said, don't worry, we'll give opportunities for everyone to pay for one set. And now they're all waiting for a recipient so they can pay for their set of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it actually brings a nice chain reaction if you just put it out there in that study group. That can actually could go big also. Yeah, expand.
Barlo. Yes.
Sorry, Hare Krishna, everyone.
Keep that close.
Definitely, I think I had such an amazing team yesterday. We were at St. Lawrence Market. It was such an enlivened area, even though it was very busy at times. So I had a very good mixture of devotees, like senior devotees that were able to, has experience with book distribution, and some newcomers, and a lot of even the youth showed up. So just to touch upon actually Damayanti's point, when asking for a donation, especially here in Toronto, we always say like it does balance out. And especially at the beginning, sometimes a devotee, when they first starting to do book distribution, there's actually no expectations. They actually have the freedom to actually just touch the payment and kind of give a little bit more freely, and a little bit more expectations are on the most senior book distributors that are a little bit more experienced with asking for a little bit larger donation. So I think sometimes having that a balanced team does actually work. What I like to say, I think I was speaking to Malini Mataji, was that I like to kind of link it back to the job and saying like somebody's job actually fills their pockets, but these spiritual books actually fills one's heart. So it kind of goes back to the point about, you know, at the beginning about, oh, I really want to be happy, you know, these books actually gives you blessings and bliss. So I kind of try to link it, and then I actually try to really explain the value of these books. That the value of these books. The next point that somebody did brought up, and I think it's the biggest fear of so many book distributors and so many devotees about why they have maybe their own obstacles. I think it's actually in their own mind about why they are feeling if they get rejected. And if they do get rejected, sometimes they carry that kind of negative feeling onto the next person. And I always like to say is like, don't stumble over something behind you. If you had experience with one person, just move on to the next person, because there's no point about meeting somebody if you're not 100% happy. Why are you neglecting giving somebody your full heart and your full attention and your full enthusiasm? You know, you should not give somebody only 50% or 90%. So of course, you guys are more experienced. But my question to you is, sorry if this is a little bit long, is that sometimes when we are leading a team, we do have a mixture of first-time devotees, devotees that are practitioners, and then senior devotees that are very good, strong book distributors. Even though that I would have meetings and kind of setting the expectations of checking on them and encouraging them, and actually really pairing them up with, you know, a first-time devotee, and then also with, you know, a senior devotee. how do you really find that balance about creating that and motivating your team to really continue to push? Because I noticed after the first 2 hours, they were really gung-ho, but after that, it was more of like, I'm a little bit tired, I want Prashadam. So the one thing that I did was that I called everybody for a team meeting. We did a big Hare Krishna together. We chanted together, we motivated each other. But is there any other tips that you could personally share about keeping this team 100% united? Sorry, that was
Prashadam. I think when people start getting a little low on energy, you should give them a little prashadam. Those lollipops have the sugar you need to keep going. No, but what you're doing is really good. The way you train and pair them up. Well, now we have 5 more minutes for the time we've been waiting for. One more question. Last question. We'll answer within 30 seconds or less. Oh. We'll get it. We'll get it.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's actually not a question, but I just wanted to quickly share. I love very much the analogy His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu made yesterday, that when we go out and touch the pavement, we have opportunity to experience the same feeling Srila Prabhupada experienced when he entered Shaladuta. And yesterday we were at Lawrence Spadina, and with Prabhu, who made a long way from Calgary, we decided to make a walk to meet more people. And just when we reached the next street crossing, we met a man from Kolkata who said his father was a crew member of Chaladuta, was the same Chaladuta ship who brought Srila Prabhupada to America. So it was the same ship, he said. His father worked at it, was a crew member. And it's such And thank you very much for this amazing opportunity and day yesterday, and opportunity to be fully
It's an ocean out there, right? If you go out and churn, you never know what's going to happen. That's amazing.
So inspired with Prabhu as well.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Let's please thank His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, Anupam Prabhu, and Mother Malini. It was really only approximately 1 day and 1 3/4 of a day that we got together. But I feel like we were able to churn so many different best practices, learn so much. I really enjoyed the discussion amongst the three of our esteemed speakers. Any question, we got different perspectives, and I really personally benefited from this discussion, and I know that all of us are going back enlivened, empowered, tooled up to do better in our services. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for coming, taking the time. It is the last session for the Light of Bhagavat. But as promised, we have some awards to give for the teams. Is everybody here? Okay. So, Atma Darshini, just bring the tray. So we promised that we would have the award for the Touch the Pavement trophy. We'd have a Touch the Pavement trophy for the team that went to their location and got a picture. So for the record, we had 5 teams, 5 team leaders. Vishesh, just stand up. I think you deserve the appreciation. Radhika Rasika Prabhu and Uddhav Prabhu, co-leads at Lawrence Spadina. Jayanti at St. Lawrence Market. And Ishan, Jayanti and Ishan. Damayanti at Kensington Market. Madan Gopinath Prabhu is coordinating with the Scarborough team. So I think these devotees deserve special appreciation for their hard work. Also Rohan Prabhu and Shreyanshi, who helped pack the books. For anybody who walked back into the Prashadam area today, you saw there were a lot of books that came back. And we distributed almost 300 books. So you can only imagine how the packing effort was. So thank you very much for doing that. To all the drivers, to everybody who cooked, deep deep gratitude to each one of you. Every piece is important. Without any one of the different devotees who participated, we wouldn't have had the outing. But now for the awards. So the touch, okay, we have a screen and we have some trophies here. Let's go. Okay, so presenting the first ever Light of Bhagavat Awards. Let's see what we have here. Touch the Pavement Award goes to Team Yorkville, headed by Vishesh Prabhu. And when we announced that we would have a Touch the Pavement Award, it was pretty obvious who would win it. Not only were they closest to the temple, they could walk there, there was no traffic, but they still didn't miss a chance. It wasn't like the story of the hare and the tortoise. They didn't think that, oh, we're going to be the first ones. They made sure they didn't have a chance to lose. They were out before anybody else could get out, and they sent the picture before most teams even left the temple. So they definitely deserve it. But we knew that there were other teams who also would say that they just were the closest, so they deserved an award. So we deserved an award. We went out there and we found out what other awards we could offer. So let's see what we have next. This is a big one. The Assume It Can Be Done Award. And this goes to Team Spadina, headed by Radhika Rasika and Uddhav Prabhu. And you know why this is Assume It Can Be Done? Because for the first time in the long time, or ever maybe, they distributed a Srimad Bhagavatam set on the street. And this person actually took the set with him. He wanted to take the set with him. So he carried the set. So Uddhav ji and Radhika Rasika Prabhu, Assume It Can Be Done. Thank you. Let's see what we have next. The Light of Bhagavat Award head to the Scarborough team with Madan Gopinath Prabhu, Meenakshi Mataji, along with Malini Mataji. Please come and take your award for the most number of Bhagavatam sets distributed yesterday. 9 sets. Harai Pran, come. Okay. The Trailblazers Award to the team that went out for the first time to St. Lawrence Market. We've never gone on organized Sankirtan there. And with, as explained, shared by Ishan, we distributed the first E-set on the street in Toronto at this location yesterday. So the Trailblazers Award goes to Jayanti and the team. Ishan is there, if Ishan is there. Haribo! And last but not the least, our goal is to leave everybody with a good impression. And this award of Bring a Smile goes to the team in Kensington. You can see how the devotees are so happy and smiling. And their rocking Harinam brought smiles to everybody in Kensington. So Damayanti on behalf of Team Kensington. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Atma Darshini. She has been working really hard to organize everything. From flights of devotees who are visiting, their accommodations, to prasadam arrangements, and marking who came first. So we do have the prizes. There's a water bottle for those of you who came first, were the first 20 to check in yesterday, and stickers that say Catch Your Jaladuta, who were the first 20 to register on Friday. So if you're here, you can get those awards now. Okay? Hare Krishna. Obviously, nothing we do is ever complete without Anukul Seva. So deep gratitude to Anukul Seva for all the... For Anukul Seva is a manifestation of Assume It Can Be Done. You have a desire and he fulfills it. Look at the merch table, the trophies, and everything else that came up. Thank you all very much. It has been a really heartwarming experience to have, obviously, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. Today is the last day. We had a really the pleasure, the fortune of having you for 2 weekends. We still have the Sunday feast, but it has been really, really unforgettable. It will always be unforgettable. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we're on to our goal. 41 days, 100,008 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. It will happen, and as Vaisheshika Prabhu says, we will be dancing together in the kirtan to celebrate it. And all of us here together will be there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Shamahini is available 24/7. I live on the West Coast, and anytime I put a WhatsApp, it better be important because she'll answer it any time of the day or the night. It's your heart that made this happen, your enthusiasm to see everyone come together, expand the mood of Sankirtan. You carry that with you wherever you go. You never take credit. You're always arranging everything from behind. You have a huge support team because everyone likes to work with you. And I'm personally grateful for you helping the expansion all over the world. It's not just here, but she's on the phone to leaders on continents all over the world, setting up programs, making sure that it all happens. Deepest gratitude and prayers that Shri Shri Gauranitai give ever-increasing capacity to expand the Sankirtan movement, because that's your desire. Thank you very much for bringing us all together. Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Shri Gauranitai, Shri Shri Radha Kirchor Gopinath, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. If you so desire, please give us the power of memory, remembering this weekend that by coming together and trying to serve you through book distribution, we've learned new things that we can use in your service. And we also have an indelible sense of happiness in our heart from going out into the great unknown and presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam. Please remember all the check marks we made on the left-hand side. And please send us more and more resources. Please empower us with enthusiasm so we can expand the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam and all of Prabhupada's books here in Canada. And please also empower us so that Canada can beat America. It's about time. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone who agrees with this prayer, please say Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarishcha kripa sindhabevacha patitanam padmebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anantakoti vaishnavidiki jai. Thanks to Bhagavat Pran, Hadai Pran, Pran brothers. Behind the scenes is the aesthetic of the kirtans, the enthusiasm, the help on all levels made a huge difference. They go anywhere, even though they're busy doing their own projects, but they come to make sure that it's a sublime experience, and that's certainly what you do. Boy, I'd like to say something about everybody. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Now what? What's next, Shamahini? Let's do more stuff.
The parade at Nathan Phillips Square is starting at 1 o'clock. Anybody who would like, is able to go, please go in as many devotees as can. Please do go to show support. It's a nice opportunity for Harinam as well as book distribution. We have a booth there with a book table. Hadai Pran Prabhu, I believe you're going soon. Hadai Pran Prabhu, Bhagavat Pran Prabhu are going to be joining the Harinam. So the devotees organizing have really requested as many devotees as possible. Please join, show support. It's very close to the temple. If you need help arranging transportation, I'd be happy to assist. At 6 o'clock, we meet back again for the Sunday feast. Hare Krishna.